Howdy, soldiers. Today's topic is an elusive thing. Some people have heard about it, the internet has gone crazy about it, but everyone wonders when they go to their bookstore and look on shelves, does this thing really exist? That mythical being is the new adult novel that not a lot of people know about, and it seems to be categorized and thought about in various ways, and I don't think any of them are right. Now, YA, or young adult / teen novels, are the majority of what I read, and I feel like YA as a genre has really grown in the last 10-15 years and has expanded and exploded and blossomed and all those other kind of like booming metaphors, all featuring protagonists usually around age 14 to 17. I feel like 16 is like the holy grail, just right smack dab in the center. That's always the age that you learn about that you're from a dynasty of kings or that like you're secretly a mermaid or something. I remember feeling very put out on my 16th birthday when my family didn't reveal any kind of astounding secret to me. As a result of this boom of young adult literature, there has been another response to a newer adult audience, the new adult genre. It is just an adult book that deals with protagonists usually around the ages of 18 to 24-ish. My demographic. What separates young adult from regular fiction is basically the age of the protagonist and usually the topics or themes that they talk about in the novel. For example, YA is a lot of discovering yourself, discovering who you are, first love, acceptance, whereas regular fiction or regular fantasy is more about meeting your destiny and, you know, having a family or having a family killed by an evil king and seeking revenge and that kind of, you know, that jazz. So new adult is this somewhat new genre that falls right in between for characters that are maybe already know who they are, but maybe aren't ready to go start a revolution, swing a sword around, or, you know, settle into a solid career and start playing to RRSPs. But because it's technically still a new genre, I find people tend to describe new adult as YA with more sex, and the whole genre gets written off as just more smutty YA stuff. Now, I do not think that we should write off new adult as YA with more sex. That is not the case at all. The only problem is that there's not a lot of representation for this new adult genre, which is quickly becoming a genre. It's very small, but it's there. So the new adult genre deals with themes and topics that happen in a new adult's life. They often have to do with going off to university, or fighting with your parents, or having control issues in your own life, or being in your first long-term serious relationship. And it's true that people at this age, my age, are going to be having more sex than teenagers in a young adult book. Sex in YA is not really explored very often, and I'm gonna get into that. There is going to be more sex in a new adult book than in a young adult book if the author so decides to put that in there, because this is an age of life where people are going to be having more sex, supposedly. We have more responsibility over our bodies. We are full legal adults now, so we have our own choices to make. We're going to be more educated. We're going to have read or seen or talked about sex in some capacity, and people at this age are going to have more spaces besides their childhood bedroom to get down or go down, like apartment buildings or dorm rooms. YA books like to pretend that sex doesn't exist. And there's a lot of fade to black, or basically the characters being written as, and then they go have sex, and there's nothing that describes it, it's just alluded to. Now that's a whole other topic, and I might do that as a video actually, because it depends. Sex in YA is based on appropriateness of the young reader as they're learning, or they don't want to be explicit in that detail because the story is usually focused on not sex and not, you know, relationships and love, and I get that. So new adult seems to be the genre to explore that more, because now the reader of a YA book has grown up enough and probably had some either sexual experiences or seen it, read it, talked about it. And new adult's thing is not that it is YA with sex. It goes into much harsher and more intense themes than a YA audience would go through, such as mental illness or relationship abuse, or the feeling of, you know, being on your own for the first time and having only yourself to rely on. Maybe exploring oneself, themes of friendship, like they're just going to be more than YA. Doesn't mean that it's better than YA, I would just say it's growing up, and the themes that grow up with you. They're gonna get more serious, and as you grow up, you're going to become more serious about friends, about your own mental health, about the way that you live your life, and so that's just how new adult is. It's just a growing up and the themes that a new adult that's learning stuff and figuring stuff out is going to go through. Now, there are definitely certain books that are a new adult, but that are marketed as a YA book because the characters are still somewhat young or like still somewhat teenagers, but they are not appropriate for a new teenager. For example, I don't know if you can see, but on this shelf I have both Nevernight by J. Kristoff and A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. These are both put in the young adult section in some bookstores, and oh, these are not a young adult book. ACOTAR deals with very mature themes, and I say mature because there is a lot of mental abuse and manipulation that goes on in that an older reader would understand, but a younger reader might not get. And the sex in it is very explicit, to a point where I remember when Court of Mist and Fury came out, and after I had read that, I saw like 14-year-olds buying it because they had read Throne of Glass and wanted to buy the other one, and I was like, oh girl, you are going to experience an awakening you were not ready for. Or we can say Nevernight. I think the main character is 19-ish, so that's technically a young adult slash new adult age, but it is very violent, and again, lots of sex, lots of explicit sex. I'm not saying that the scenes are bad, they're very good, they're really well written. The gory scenes are extremely gory, but also like so psychologically thrilling. And those books walk the fine line of the main character still being pretty young. So say a 30-year-old person looking at that might say, oh, that's for young people, not for my age group, because, you know, they in their lives are going through something different than I myself am. However, a 15-year-old would say, oh, they're still a teenager, it must be for me. And that's not the case. Oh my god, if you are under the age of like, I would even say 18, those books might be a little bit much for you. So new adult as a genre is slowly becoming more of a genre. People are understanding it more. There are more things being written for this age range, and I personally really love it. I think it bridges a good gap between having, you know, a perky 16-year-old having to save the world with her magic sword, but also the regular fiction that I read, where it's either like a 30-year-old woman who is, you know, not sure what she wants to do in life, and I'm like, I mean, me neither, girl, but like, I don't understand what you've gone through yet. So that little middle range is really good, and I personally enjoy that. So new adult is not just YA with sex. New adult is YA with more mature themes. It's about growing up and understanding yourself in a different way than a new adult would. Please leave down below your own comments on this, because I think that it should be a genre. Some people think that it doesn't exist. It 100% does, it's just very elusive. Also, please leave down below if you have any recommendations for any, because, you know, I've read a lot that are very romance-based, and I mean, that's cool and all, but like, can I also have someone with a sword just in that same one? Or maybe like we're 25 now and we have to save the world, but because we're so much experienced and like a lot more responsible and better at planning things, stuff just goes way smoother. I hope you guys are having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!